My name is Colonel Gabriel Moretti, and the most terrifying call of my life did not come from a battlefield. It came at 10:17 on a Tuesday morning. The school nurse said my 6-year-old son, Noah, had stopped breathing. An ambulance was taking him to Lenox Hill Hospital. Then, just before the call ended, I heard a crash, a woman scream, and 3 words that froze my blood. They found the boy. I had spent 19 years in the United States Army. I had learned how to remain calm while everything around me burned. But that morning, I broke every speed limit between Fort Hamilton and Manhattan. My wife, Claire, had died 2 years earlier after a short illness. Since then, Noah had been my whole world. He was small for his age, loved dinosaurs, and slept with a plastic flashlight under his pillow because he said darkness was only scary when you could not investigate it. As I drove, I called the hospital. No one would tell me anything. Then my commanding officer, General Harlan, called me. "Gabriel, turn around," he said. "Federal agents are handling the situation." I tightened my grip on the steering wheel. I had not told anyone at the base where Noah was. "How do you know which hospital?" I asked. There was a pause. "It came through official channels," he said. Then he ordered me to return to Fort Hamilton. That was the moment fear became suspicion. When I reached Lenox Hill, 2 police cruisers blocked the emergency entrance. Nurses were running through the lobby. A security alarm screamed from somewhere above me. I showed my military identification and demanded to see my son. A young officer pointed toward the pediatric intensive care unit. "3rd floor," he said. "But sir, there may be an armed intruder." I took the stairs. On the 3rd floor, I found shattered glass, overturned carts, and dark red stains across the tile. Tactical officers moved toward the pediatric wing. One security guard lay unconscious near the elevators. Then I saw a woman in blue janitorial clothes standing beside Noah's room. She had blood on her forehead and a broken mop handle in both hands. 2 armed officers were shouting at her to drop it. She did not move. She stood between them and my son's bed like a soldier guarding the last safe place on earth. "Her name is Elena Cruz," a nurse whispered. "She attacked hospital security." I looked at the unconscious guard on the floor. Then I looked at Elena. Her eyes were not wild. They were focused. She saw my uniform and shouted, "Colonel Moretti, check your son's AV." An officer grabbed her. I pushed past the nurses and reached Noah. He was pale, but he was breathing through an oxygen mask. A clear tube ran into his arm. Elena kept shouting. The bag was changed. "Read the label." I checked it. The printed label showed Noah's name, but beneath it, another label had been partly torn away. A doctor stepped closer, stared at the fluid, and immediately clamped the line. "This isn't saline," he said. The room went silent. The doctor ordered the bag tested. Less than 5 minutes later, he told me the truth. The IV contained enough sedative to stop a child's heart. Someone had tried to kill my son inside the hospital, and the only person who had stopped them was the woman everyone was treating like a criminal. I demanded that the officers release Elena. She dropped the mop handle and sank into a chair. "A man in a security uniform changed the bag," she told me. I asked why he was touching medication. He pulled a gun. I hit his wrist with my mop, and we fought. He got away before the police arrived. I looked at the guard on the floor. "That isn't the man," she said. "That guard tried to help me." The attacker was wearing a copied uniform. Noah opened his eyes a few minutes later. He looked at me, then at Elena. "Dad," he whispered. "The cleaning lady saved me." I held his hand and promised he was safe. It was a promise I could not yet keep. The doctors believed Noah's breathing emergency had been caused by an allergic reaction. But Noah had no known allergies. The school said he had collapsed after drinking from his water bottle. That bottle had disappeared. So had the hospital attacker. And 30 minutes after I arrived, General Harlan appeared with 2 military investigators. He walked into the pediatric unit as if he owned it. "Gabriel, I'm relieved the boy is alive," he said. He barely looked at Noah. Instead, he asked whether Noah had said anything unusual before collapsing. That question told me everything. This was not random. Someone believed my son knew something. I told Harlan that Noah remembered nothing. It was a lie. Earlier, while the doctors examined him, Noah had slipped something into my hand. It was a tiny black memory card. Mom hid it in Dino, he whispered. Dino was his stuffed green dinosaur. He carried it everywhere. A man at school tried to take it. No said. Mom told me, before she went to heaven, that if a bad man ever asked about Dino, I should give this to you. For 2 years, that secret had been sewn inside a child's toy. That evening, I moved Noah to a secure room under a false name. Elena refused to leave. She said the attacker had seen her face, and she no longer felt safe alone. I believed her. I also learned why she had reacted so quickly. Before becoming a hospital custodian, Elena had been an army medic. She had served in Afghanistan. After a roadside explosion damaged her hearing, she returned home and struggled to find stable work. Lenox Hill had hired her for the night cleaning crew. She had recognized the IV bag because she had seen the same sedative used in field surgery. People had looked at her uniform and seen a janitor. The attacker had made the same mistake. At midnight, Elena and I opened the memory card on an offline hospital computer. It contained videos recorded by my late wife. Claire had worked as a civilian financial auditor for a defense contractor called Northstar Dynamics. I knew she had investigated billing irregularities before she became ill. I did not know she had uncovered something much larger. In the first video, Claire looked tired and frightened. She explained that Northstar had charged the government for medical equipment that did not exist. The company used military transport flights to move illegal weapons, then changed the shipping records. Hundreds of millions of dollars had disappeared. The officer protecting the operation was General Harlan, my commanding officer, my mentor, the man who had stood beside me at Claire's funeral. Then came the deepest betrayal. Claire said Harlan knew she had copied the financial records. Days later, an army physician connected to Northstar changed her medication. Her illness had been treatable. The wrong drug had destroyed her liver. Claire had not died from bad luck. She had been murdered slowly enough to look natural. I stepped away from the computer because I could no longer breathe. For 2 years, I had blamed myself for missing the signs. I had been deployed during the first months of her illness. Harlan had personally refused my early return request. He told me my country needed me. In truth, he had needed me far away from my wife. Elena placed a hand on my shoulder. "You can grieve later," she said quietly. "Right now, your son needs you to think." She was right. The memory card held proof, but not enough. Claire had hidden the complete ledger on a Northstar server. Access required 2 things: her encryption key and Harlan's biometric authorization. Harlan would never cooperate willingly. Before dawn, someone shut down the power to Noah's floor. The emergency lights came on. Elena heard the service elevator before I did. We moved Noah into an empty supply room. I placed a hospital bed in his room and covered it to look occupied. Seconds later, a masked man entered with a silenced pistol. He fired twice into the bed. I struck him from behind and forced him to the floor. Elena kicked the gun away. When I removed his mask, I recognized Captain Reese, one of Harlan's personal aides. Reese smiled even with my forearm against his throat. "You cannot protect the boy forever," he said. I wanted revenge in that instant. I wanted to make him feel every moment of fear Noah had felt and every day of pain Claire had endured. But revenge without proof would make me a criminal and Harlan a victim. So I let the police take Reese alive. Then I made sure Harlan heard that Reese had escaped. It was the first move in my trap. I called Harlan and pretended to be broken. I told him I had watched Claire's videos. I said I would give him the memory card if he guaranteed Noah's safety. He agreed to meet me at a closed Northstar warehouse in Brooklyn. He believed grief had made me weak. He had forgotten that grief can also make a patient man very dangerous. Before the meeting, Elena contacted a former combat medic who now worked for the FBI. I contacted an Army Inspector General I trusted. We sent them copies of Claire's videos and arranged for both agencies to monitor the warehouse. But I kept one part of the plan secret. I needed Harlan's thumbprint to open the server. At 900 that night, I entered the warehouse alone. Harlan stood beside a laptop. 4 Northstar guards surrounded him. "Where is the card?" he asked. "Where is my son?" I replied. He smiled. "Safe for now." That was another lie. Noah was in FBI protection with Elena. I placed the memory card on a metal table. Harlan inserted it into the laptop. Claire's encrypted archive appeared on the screen. "Open it," he ordered. "It needs your authorization," I said. His expression changed. He understood too late. One of the guards grabbed my arms. Harlan pressed his thumb against the scanner. The archive opened. At that exact moment, the laptop transmitted the entire North Star ledger to the FBI, the Army Inspector General, and 3 national newspapers. Names, bank accounts, shipping routes, medical records, everything. Harlan stared at the upload bar. Then he reached for his gun. The warehouse lights went out. Elena had insisted on being part of the final operation. She knew North Star's electrical layout from her time cleaning one of its offices. In the darkness, the guards lost their advantage. Federal agents stormed the building. Harlan ran toward a rear exit, dragging me in front of him as a shield. When we reached the loading dock, he pressed his gun beneath my jaw. "Your wife should have minded her own business," he whispered. I heard the confession clearly. So did the microphone hidden beneath my collar. I twisted away and knocked the weapon from his hand. He fell against the concrete. For one long second, no one stood between us. I thought of Claire in her hospital bed. I thought of Noah fighting to breathe. Harlan looked up at me and finally understood what fear felt like. "Do it?" he said. "You want revenge, I did. But I wanted something more. I wanted him to live long enough to lose everything." I stepped back as federal agents placed him in handcuffs. "No," I said. "I want justice." The North Star investigation became one of the largest military corruption cases in decades. Harlan and 12 others were convicted of fraud, weapons trafficking, conspiracy, attempted murder, and Claire's murder. The physician who had changed her medication accepted a plea deal and testified against them. Harlan received life in federal prison. His rank, reputation, pension, and freedom disappeared in a single courtroom. Captain Reese also went to prison. The school employee who poisoned Noah's water bottle confessed that North Star had paid him to search Dino and frighten my son. When Noah refused to surrender the toy, the order changed from intimidation to murder. Noah recovered completely. For weeks, he woke from nightmares and called for me. I sat beside him every night until he fell asleep again. Slowly, he became the joyful boy he had been before that Tuesday morning. Elena became part of our family. The hospital offered her a security position, but she chose to finish nursing school instead. With the reward money from the North Star case, I created a scholarship in Claire's name for veterans entering emergency medicine. Elena was its first recipient. 1 year later, Noah and I attended her graduation. When Elena walked across the stage, Noah shouted louder than anyone in the room. Afterward, he handed her a new wooden mop handle with a small silver plate attached to it. The plate read, "To the woman who stood guard when everyone else looked away." Elena laughed, then cried. "So did I. People sometimes ask whether I regret not killing Harlan on that loading dock. I never do." Death would have ended his punishment in a moment. Justice made him wake every morning, knowing that Claire's evidence survived, Noah survived, and the woman he dismissed as invisible had helped destroy his empire. Harlan believed power came from rank, money, and fear. He was wrong. Real power belonged to a frightened child who protected his mother's secret, a forgotten veteran holding a broken mop, and a father who chose proof over rage. That day, I learned revenge is not about taking a life. It is about making the truth impossible to bury. And when the truth finally stood up, the men who tried to destroy my family were the ones who could no longer breathe.